Most cars that develop serious rust give their owners plenty of warnings, but almost none of those warnings are visible from above. Not because the damage appears overnight, but because corrosion begins inside seams, cavities, drain channels, and hidden metal long before the first orange bubble appears. Today, you will learn 15 parts of the Japanese anti-rust method that can help a car survive for decades. Number 1 is the reason every other protection step either lasts or quietly fails. Let us begin right now. Number 15, the hidden enemy, already inside the car. Here is the part nobody wants to hear. The rust attacking a car right now is not visible yet, and that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Rust does not announce itself. It starts in the dark, inside door cavities, along weld seams, in the floor pan, in every hollow space water can reach and settle. By the time a bubble appears on the door sill or an orange streak shows up on the rocker panel, the metal has already been compromised from the inside for months, sometimes years. What drivers see on the surface is the final chapter of a story that started long before anyone noticed. Think about that for a second. Every car currently showing visible rust reached that point silently. The surface warning signs come last, not first. In Japan, cars undergo a mandatory inspection called shaken every 2 years. That inspection includes a full undercarriage check. Owners who allow rust to develop get fined or fail outright. So Japanese car owners treat the underside of their vehicle the same way most people treat their engine oil, because the system demands it. In North America, the average driver has never once looked under their car in years of ownership. That difference explains almost everything about why the results vary so drastically. And it is exactly where the Japanese method begins. Number 14, the 10-minute check that reveals everything. Most drivers are sitting on a rust problem they have no idea about. This step proves it. Grab a flashlight, get underneath the car. Look at the frame rails, the cross members, the area around all 4 wheel wells, and the floor pan between the rails. The warning signs, bubbling paint, orange streaks running along welds and seams, soft spots in the metal that flex under light pressure, white powdery residue where aluminum is corroding, and any section where the undercoating has cracked, peeled, or pulled away from the surface. Any one of those signs means rust is not coming. It is already there, already working. 73% of cars showing surface rust had significant undercarriage corrosion the owners had no knowledge of. The rust on the doors and fenders was not the beginning. It was the end of a process that had been running silently for years. 10 minutes, a flashlight. That is all it takes to find out what is actually happening underneath. And what comes next changes how to deal with it permanently, because knowing the problem is there is only half the equation. The other half is understanding why washing a car the same way everyone else washes theirs is quietly making everything worse. But hold on, if you've been enjoying the value here, click that subscribe button right now so you won't miss the next videos coming up in this space. Number 13, the car wash step that almost nobody does. Here is something that will feel completely backwards. The part of the car wash most people skip is actually the most important one. Washing the body panels keeps the car looking clean. Washing the undercarriage keeps the car structurally intact. Those are not the same job. Treating them as equal is one of the most expensive mistakes in everyday car ownership. Road salt, mud, and brake dust pack into cavities and seams with every single drive. That packed material holds moisture directly against bare metal. Moisture plus metal plus oxygen equals iron oxide. Rust does not need drama. It just needs darkness, dampness, and time. In Japan, undercarriage rinse is a standard service at many stations. Not an upsell, not an optional extra, a standard part of a basic wash. In North America, it is an afterthought most drivers decline without a second thought. At a self-service car wash, use the pressure wand underneath the vehicle, hit the wheel arches, the frame rails, behind the bumpers, around the exhaust, and all 4 corners where material collects. Do this especially after winter when salt has been accumulating through multiple freeze-thaw cycles. This one habit, done consistently, extends the life of any undercoating by years. 5 extra minutes, the difference between a car that lasts and a car that crumbles. But here is where most drivers make an even bigger mistake. They assume waxing when the car looks dull is enough to protect the paint. It is not, and the Japanese schedule proves exactly why timing matters more than appearance when it comes to paint protection. Number 12, the wax schedule. Japanese owners actually follow. Waxing a car when it starts to look dull is like drinking water only after passing out from dehydration. By the time the problem is visible, the damage is already deep. The Japanese wax schedule is not about appearance, it is about timing. Wax is a sacrificial barrier. It sits between the paint and the environment and absorbs everything the environment throws at a car. UV radiation, bird acid, tree sap, industrial fallout, water. When wax wears down, the paint underneath takes all of that directly. The Japanese schedule is 4 times per year, aligned with season changes. before winter, before summer, twice in the shoulder months, not when the car looks bad, before it ever gets that far. A full paint correction before recoating runs $1,500 to $3,000. 4 wax sessions per year for an entire ownership period costs less than one of those repairs. The math is not close, but the wax schedule is just the surface layer of this system. What comes next goes somewhere most drivers never even think to look, and it is the reason Japanese cars survive long after everything else has rotted away. Number 11. Cavity wax injection. The one technique that changes everything. This is the step. The one technique that separates a car that lasts 30 years from one that starts rotting at 10. And almost no one in North America does it. Door cavities, rocker panels, frame rails, and every structural hollow in the vehicle are sealed on the outside and completely exposed on the inside. Water finds its way in through drain holes, poorly sealed seams, and factory access points. Once inside, it has nowhere to go except into the metal. The outer surface looks normal for years. The inner metal has been dissolving the whole time. Cavity wax injection forces a lanolin or petroleum-based wax into those spaces through small access points. The wax coats the interior metal, displaces any moisture already present, and forms a flexible barrier that moves with the metal through temperature changes instead of cracking like rigid coatings. After testing this on a 2008 sedan with 0 prior treatment, re-inspecting 6 months later showed arrested corrosion in every cavity treated. Areas with visible early-stage rust had completely stabilized. The materials cost under $50. The applicator wand costs about $20. The labor is one afternoon. A single rocker panel replacement runs $800 to $1,500 per side. If only one step from this entire list gets done, make it this one. The return on a $70 investment and one afternoon of effort is measured in thousands of dollars of structural damage that never happens. The reason cavity wax matters so much becomes even clearer when understanding what happens to active rust that gets left untreated. Number 10. Rust converter versus rust remover, and why most people choose wrong 2 products. Both deal with rust. Only one of them is right for a car that needs to stay on the road. Rust remover strips the iron oxide away with acid, leaving completely bare metal exposed. That bare metal starts rusting again within hours in any humid environment. Rust remover belongs in a restoration shop where the metal will be immediately primed, painted, or powder coated. On a daily driver with existing paint and coating around the affected area, it strips away protection and creates a wider vulnerable zone. Rust converters work differently. It reacts chemically with iron oxide and transforms it into iron tannate, a stable black compound that bonds to the metal and accepts paint directly over it. The rust does not disappear. It is locked in place and stopped from spreading. Japanese mechanics favor converter for in-place treatment because it stabilizes without disturbing the surrounding sound paint. It is faster, more forgiving, and more sustainable for any area that cannot be fully stripped and refinished. For surface rust on a frame rail, rocker seam, or wheel arch, the sequence is converter first, then sealed with flexible rubberized undercoating. That combination stops rust in its tracks and protects the metal going forward. Skipping the converter and going straight to undercoating is exactly how rust gets sealed inside and accelerates invisibly, which leads directly to the next mistake. Because even when drivers do use undercoating correctly, the application method itself is where most of them unknowingly make everything worse. Number 9. The undercoating mistake that makes rust worse. Rubberized undercoating is sold at every auto parts store as protection. Applied the wrong way, it is one of the most damaging things a well-intentioned driver can do. The mistake almost everyone makes: spraying thick undercoating directly over dirty, damp, or already rusting metal. The coating seals the moisture and rust accelerant inside. The rust continues spreading underneath a layer of rubber that makes it completely invisible and impossible to treat. Owners feel good because they did something. The car is getting worse underneath. The correct sequence used in Japanese body shops follows a strict order. Clean the surface. Convert or remove active rust. Let the surface fully dry. Prime any bare metal with self-etching primer. Then apply undercoating in thin, even layers, not one thick coat. For weld seams specifically, Japanese shops add brushable undercoating on top of the spray. A brush pushes material into the seam itself rather than bridging over it. That distinction matters more than most people realize because weld seams are where rust almost always starts. Applied correctly, undercoating lasts 5 to 7 years and provides real structural protection. Applied incorrectly, it is an expensive way to hide a growing problem. Number 8. The drain hole habit. That costs nothing. Every car has drain holes. Most drivers have never once thought about them. doors, rocker panels, and the trunk floor all have small openings specifically designed to let water escape. When those holes clog with packed leaves, road grime, and debris, water accumulates inside structural panels with nowhere to drain. Inside a door, standing water works on the metal from the inside. The outer skin looks fine for years. Then one day a hand pressed against the lower door panel goes through. In Japan, clearing drain holes is part of the seasonal wash routine. A straightened coat hanger or a burst of compressed air. 15 minutes for the whole car. Check the bottom edge of all 4 doors for small round or oval openings. Clear each one. Do the same for the trunk floor drain under the spare tire well. A small amount of standing water with no exit is a floor pan rust problem that only takes a couple of winters to turn expensive. This costs nothing. It prevents some of the most common and most insidious structural rust found on vehicles of any age. And the next step addresses an entry point even more common than drain holes, one that most drivers create themselves every time a stone clips the car on the highway. Number 7. The rock chip. Response that prevents major rust. A rock chip is not cosmetic damage. It is an open wound the car cannot close on its own. Paint isolates metal from the atmosphere. When a stone breaks through paint and primer down to bare metal, that spot begins oxidizing within hours. Left untreated through one winter with road salt and freeze-thaw cycles, rust creeps laterally under the surrounding paint. What starts as a chip the size of a match head becomes a rust bubble the size of a quarter within 2 winters. The Japanese response is immediate. Clean the chip with isopropyl alcohol on a cotton swab. Let it dry. Apply color match touch-up paint using the code on the sticker inside the driver's door jamb. Build it up in thin layers. Seal it with a clear coat pen. Under 10 minutes, every time. No excuses. Here's the thing most drivers do not grasp until it is too late. A car sitting outside right now probably has 3 to 7 rock chips in various stages of rust development. Each one is a timer. The longer the wait, the deeper the rust travels under the surrounding paint. By the time the bubble is visible, the damage radius is already larger than the original chip by a factor of 10 or more. Color match touch-up paint exists for virtually every vehicle ever made. It costs $10 to $15. A body shop repair for a rust bubble that grew from an ignored chip runs $400 to $800. Keeping a bottle in the glove box is the highest return investment available for any car. Number 6. The season change. Ritual. Most drivers skip completely. This is the habit that separates cars that last from cars that do not. And it is not complicated, it is just consistent. Before the salt season starts, the Japanese seasonal sequence runs in a specific order. Undercarriage wash. Inspection of all cavity plugs and seam sealant for cracks and gaps. Fresh cavity wax in any area showing wear. Full exterior wax on every panel. After the first major salt event of the season, a follow-up undercarriage rinse removes accumulation before it gets uninterrupted time against the metal. At the end of winter, a full undercarriage wash, undercoating inspection, and exterior wax close the cycle. Small steps, done every season, repeated every year. That is it. The cars sitting in Japanese driveways at 30 years old with clean bodywork are not miracles. They are the result of owners who refuse to skip the basics year after year, without exception. Most drivers do the opposite. They wash the car when it looks dirty. They wax it when someone points out the dullness. They check underneath only when something falls off or starts making a noise. By the time they take the car seriously, the frame is already compromised, the floor pan is already soft, and the repair estimate is already more than the car is worth. The next step adds a layer of chemical protection that almost no consumer guide ever mentions, and it might be the most underrated technique in this entire list. Number 5. The sacrificial layer. Professional? Shops always use. This sounds industrial. It is not. And understanding the chemistry behind it changes how every rust repair looks from this point forward. Zinc-rich primer works on the same principle as galvanized steel. Zinc is more reactive than iron. When zinc and iron sit together in a corrosive environment, the zinc corrodes first, sacrificing itself to protect the iron beneath. This is cathodic protection, the same chemistry protecting ship hulls, underground pipelines, and offshore platforms worldwide. On any weld, repair, or area of bare metal, applying zinc-rich primer before any top coat means the repair has a secondary defense layer, even if the top coat eventually chips or cracks. The zinc keeps protecting. Japanese body shops apply zinc-rich primer as a standard step on any repair involving exposed metal. In most North American shops, it shows up only in high-end restoration work. A rattle can of zinc-rich primer costs under $15. The difference it makes on any bare metal repair is the difference between a fix that lasts 5 years and a fix that holds for 20, but a repair is only as good as the coverage it has. and there is one part of the vehicle where coverage fails faster than anywhere else, not because of the coating, but because of a small plastic component most drivers have never thought to check. Number 4. The part of the car that rusts fastest. When ignored, there is one area that takes more punishment than any other part of the vehicle. It is also the area most drivers have never inspected in their entire ownership. The wheel arch liner, the plastic cover inside each wheel, well, is the only thing standing between the bare metal of the wheel arch and a constant barrage of water spray, gravel impacts, salt mist, and road chemicals. Every single drive throws all of that directly at that liner. When these liners crack from age, lose their mounting clips, or fall off entirely after a bad pothole, the wheel arch metal gets that punishment directly. It deteriorates faster than almost any other area of the vehicle. Check all 4 during any seasonal inspection. Look for cracks, missing clips, sections that have pulled away from the body, and areas where the plastic has become brittle. Clear any debris packed behind a loose section. Replace anything that cannot be properly reseated. Replacement liners cost $30 to $80 per corner. One missed liner for one winter season can cause $500 to $2,000 in wheel arch rust repair. But the next step reveals a rust entry point that hides in plain sight, costs almost nothing to seal, and causes some of the most expensive structural damage found in body shops. Number 3. The seam sealant. Check that could save thousands. Stop right here. Because this step is the one most likely to be silently costing money right now on a car that looks perfectly fine from the outside. Open the trunk. Look at the painted metal around the perimeter of the trunk opening, where the rubber seal presses against the body. Look at the seam where the metal panels join. Now look carefully for any hairline crack in the black sealant, any paint chip along that edge, any area where the rubber sits against bare metal instead of painted surface. When seam sealant cracks and water gets into a trunk, floor pan, it sits. It has nowhere to go. It rusts through from underneath, hidden under carpet and a trunk liner. Drivers discover this problem when a mechanic lifts the car for something completely unrelated and finds the floor pan has been rotting for years. By then, the repair is not a seam sealant job. It is a structural repair. The same hidden risk lives at every door seam, at the B pillar, and where the roof panel meets the A pillar on coupes and sedans. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Clean the cracked area with isopropyl alcohol. Apply paintable seam sealer from any auto parts store. Under $15. About 30 minutes per problem area. It stops a $2,000 structural repair before it ever starts. Most people will never check this until it is too late. The ones who do will never regret the 30 minutes it took. Number 2. The rust-fighting product. Most drivers have never heard of. There is a product that has been used by marine engineers, agricultural equipment specialists, and Japanese rust-proofing professionals for decades. It almost never appears in mainstream car care guides, and it outperforms most of the products those guides do recommend. Lanolin-based rust inhibitor. Lanolin is a natural wax extracted from sheep's wool. It does not just sit on top of metal as a passive coating. It actively displaces water, pushing moisture away from the surface and penetrating into microscopic irregularities that spray coatings cannot reach. In extreme cold, it stays flexible, which means it does not crack and expose metal the way rigid petroleum-based coatings eventually do. After applying a lanolin product to the undercarriage and accessible cavities of a test vehicle and inspecting results 6 months later, the treated areas showed zero new oxidation. A petroleum undercoating applied to the same vehicle 2 years earlier had already developed fresh surface rust at seam edges and thinning spots. Products like fluid film and wool wax are widely available. Reapplication every 1 to 2 years keeps them effective. The cost per application is a fraction of any professional rust-proofing service. Most drivers who discover lanolin products become converts immediately, because the results after 6 months of proper application are hard to argue against. Zero new oxidation in treated areas, while adjacent petroleum-coated surfaces show fresh rust developing at every seam and edge. This is the product closest to what Japanese preservation specialists actually use. But even the best product in the world does not save a car on its own. What comes next is the piece that determines whether every other step on this list holds together over decades, or gradually unravels from a single overlooked habit. And it has nothing to do with any product at all. Number 1, the one thing that makes every other step actually work. Here it is. 15 steps, 15 techniques, all available right now, all affordable. None of them are difficult. So why do most cars still rust? Why do drivers spend thousands on repairs that were entirely preventable with habits that cost almost nothing? Because rust prevention is not a project, it is a practice. That is the real answer. That is the thing Japanese car culture understood and built into its entire relationship with vehicles. The shaken inspection system, the seasonal routines, the cavity wax ritual. the drain hole clearance, the touch-up paint kept in the glove box. None of those are dramatic interventions. Every single one is a small, consistent, repeatable action done on a schedule and never skipped. The car in the driveway right now has weld seams collecting moisture. It has paint chips from last winter sitting exposed. It has drain holes blocked by debris. It has a wheel arch liner with a crack letting salt hit bare metal every time it rains. It has sealed cavities that have never seen protective wax since the factory floor. None of those things end a car by themselves. But combine all 15 failure points, let them run unchecked for a decade, and the car becomes unfixable, not because the rust was unstoppable, because it was never interrupted. Start with the inspection, find out what is already happening. Then work through this list one step at a time, every season without exception. No shortcuts, no skipped seasons, no waiting. The Japanese method is not a secret formula locked away in a factory. It is the discipline to treat a car like something worth keeping, year after year, without waiting for a problem to become visible before doing something about it. That discipline is why their cars last 30 years, and it is available to anyone willing to actually do it. That means the advantage is not access to rare equipment or expensive treatments. It is noticing small risks early, correcting them properly, and repeating the protective routine before weather and neglect compound the damage. Once you see rust prevention this way, maintaining an older car stops feeling mysterious. You are removing moisture, sealing vulnerable metal, and checking trouble spots before small damage becomes an expensive repair. Which of these rust prevention steps did you not know before today? Drop the number in the comments below. And if you want the complete undercarriage treatment guide, including the products, preparation order, and the mistake that traps moisture against metal, that video is right there. Subscribe, because every week your car has another useful secret nobody explained to you.